It was the 9th day of the 9th month in Jiang, and the world had gone mad. They called it a day of great events, but to me, it felt like the end of the world. High in the northwest, the mighty Kanglan River, a massive 8,000-mile artery cutting through the Qin Empire, became the site of a nightmare. 5 pillars of heavenly lightning struck down from the sky, slamming straight into Qingfeng Gorge. The impact was so violent it severed the river's flow for 10 miles and caused 10 mountain peaks to collapse in an instant. People called it the Wrath of Heaven. At the same time, the Great Qin Empire, one of the 5 superpowers known for its ironclad cavalry, fell into absolute chaos. The Empress, a woman who ruled with a blood-soaked iron fist, had vanished without a trace. The court was in shambles. The Empress Dowager had to step in, appointing Gao Qi as the great general of the state and regent to hold the crumbling government together. But I didn't care about any of that. On that same day, I was standing by the riverbank, soaked to the bone and looking like a drowned rat. My straw hat was shattered, and my long hair was a tangled mess. I looked up at the sky and started screaming at the top of my lungs. You've got to be kidding me. I just forgot to release one tiny golden bell fish. Was that really worth 5 bolts of lightning? I shook my fist at the clouds. Are you sick in the head, old man heaven? Do you have a personal vendetta against me? This is the 2nd time. You already blasted me into this world once, and now you're trying to finish the job. After my shouting match with the sky, I slumped down on the rocks and sighed. My fishing boat was gone. My livelihood was at the bottom of the river. I grumbled to myself for a bit, but eventually, I forced myself to stand up. I needed to eat. I started scanning the shore, hoping the lightning had at least stunned some fish. Thankfully, the heavens had a tiny bit of a conscience. I found 7 or 8 large fish blasted onto the shore. My bad mood vanished instantly as I gathered them up. But as I was picking through the debris, I saw something strange. Between the jagged rocks, a flash of white fabric swayed with the waves. I rushed over. It was a woman. She was lying on her back, eyes closed, completely unconscious. Even with her clothes torn and her hair a mess, she was stunning. She looked to be about 25 or 26. Her eyebrows were long and sharp, like twin swords slanting toward her temples, giving her a fierce, stubborn look even in sleep. I checked her breathing. She was alive. Feeling a bit of sympathy for a fellow drowned rat, I slung her over my back, grabbed my fish, and started the long trek home. I hummed a little tune as I walked, trying to keep my spirits up. After about half an hour, I reached my small thatched hut at the foot of the hills. My scruffy dog came running out, barking happily. Home sweet home, I muttered, showing off a wide grin. I got to work immediately. I gutted and cleaned the fish with practiced ease. 7 of them were salted and hung up to dry for storage. I kept 1 6-pound grass carp for dinner. I stood there with my hand on my hip, looking at the fish with pride. Back in my old world, we had a special name for this kind of stew, but I couldn't quite remember it. Guasong, how was the catch today? I'm starving. I turned around to see a thin, shifty-looking old man pushing through the gate with a basket on his back. This was old Kai. All you think about is eating, I snapped, though I didn't stop cooking. I thought you went to gather herbs. You go every day, but I never see you bring back anything worth a dime. The aroma of the fish stew began to fill the yard. Old Kai sniffed the air, his eyes lighting up. Good fish. That smells incredible. I rolled my eyes. That's because of my skill. You're lucky I'm feeding you. Yeah, he chuckled. Where did a brat like you learn to cook like this? Even the head chefs at Linjiang Pavilion can't compete. The chefs at Linjiang Pavilion are my students, I bragged. Why do you think they're doing so well? Old Kai tried to grab the soup spoon, but I snatched it back. Go wash your hands first. He grumbled as he walked away. You're a fisherman, yet you're cleaner than a prince. You bathe twice a day and wash your hands 1,000 times. Who taught you that? You're the one who makes me take those medicinal baths every day. I shouted after him. Now go. You're a doctor. Act like you know what hygiene is. A moment later, a terrified scream pierced the air. Old Kai came sprinting out of the hut like a madman. Guasong, there's a demon in the house. What? I dropped the spoon. He grabbed my arm, pointing a trembling finger at the door. A demon. A white-clothed female demon. I kicked him in the shin. Stop yelling. I picked her up by the river. She nearly drowned. Old Kai looked suspicious. A girl that beautiful? She's probably a mountain spirit or a fox demon in disguise. Fox demon my foot, I said. You're the doctor. Go in there and see if you can brew some medicine for her. She's not a demon. He scratched his head and looked at me. If she's not a demon, she'd make a good wife for you. You're a bit of a freak yourself, so you'd be a perfect match. You're the old freak. I raised my foot again, and he scurried back inside. I sat by the stove, chewing on a blade of grass and rubbing my dog's head while I waited. Eventually, old Kai poked his head out of the window and beckoned me over. Come here. Look at this. I stood up lazily and walked inside. Now what? Look at her face, he whispered. I looked down at the bed and gasped. The woman's skin, which had been as white as jade before, was now covered in a deep, angry crimson. The redness masked half her face, completely ruining her features. She was unrecognizable. What happened? I asked. Old Kai shook his head. I don't know. It just happened. I told you she was a mountain spirit. She's about to show her true form. We should throw her out before she eats us. I'm too old to be eaten by a demon. I kicked him again. Stop talking nonsense. You claim to be a great doctor, so do something. Maybe it's poison. He huffed and sat on the edge of the bed, placing 2 fingers on her wrist to check her pulse. I am a great doctor. I saved your life, didn't I? Yeah. You've told me 10,000 times. Old Kai closed his eyes, swaying his head back and forth as he felt her pulse. Finally, he let go and stroked his sparse beard. Well, I asked. Her internal meridians are a mess, he muttered. Her blood flow is chaotic, and she's suffered a massive trauma to the head. These injuries are strange. Some of them should be fatal. This won't be easy to fix. I pointed a finger at his nose. I knew it. You're a total fraud. Old Kai jumped up, his face turning bright red. A fraud? I am a master of the medical arts. In this world, if I call myself second, no one dares to call themselves first. You brat, how dare you call me a liar? Anyone can brag, I said mockingly. But you can't even treat one girl. Back where I come from, doctors like you are called quacks. You think I can't treat her? He roared. If I can't fix her, no one can. Just you wait. He stomped over to a shelf in the corner, reached up to the top rack, and pulled down a weathered sheepskin roll. He untied the cord and unfurled it, revealing a row of silver needles of all different sizes, each one shimmering with a cold, sharp light. Wow, I remarked, leaning against the doorframe. You're a very dedicated fraud, I'll give you that. Old Kai let out a huff, choosing to ignore my sharp tongue. He pinched a 3-inch silver needle between 2 fingers and, with a sudden, blurred movement, drove it straight into the top of the woman's head. His hands became a whirlwind. In an instant, her entire scalp was bristling with silver needles. Girls are always so much trouble, he muttered. He flicked his finger toward the air, and a needle actually leaped up from the roll. Following his gesture, it plunged deep into the woman's chest. Before long, she was covered from head to toe in shimmering metal. My jaw dropped. Old man, I'll give it to you. You've got some skills. Where'd you learn that magic trick? He looked smug, puffing out his chest. Impressive, right? I told you I wasn't just some big talker. I shook my head. No, now I'm even more convinced you're a fraud. Back in my hometown, the best scammers always know a few sleight-of-hand tricks. Go back to your hometown then, he roared, his beard twitching in anger. As we bickered, a soft moan came from the bed. We both froze and rushed over. The woman's brow was furrowed tight, her face twisted in a mask of pain. Suddenly, her eyes snapped open. It felt like 2 cold blades had been unsheathed in the room. Her phoenix-like eyes were stunningly beautiful, but they held a terrifying, sharp intensity. How dare you? She rasped. Her voice sounded like ice crystal shattering, cold and cutting. The heavenly people? How? But before she could finish the thought, her eyes fluttered shut, and she slumped back into unconsciousness. Old Kai and I stared at each other in silence. I scratched my head. What was that? What did she say? Old Kai rubbed his chin, humming thoughtfully. Old Kai said something about heavenly people, and something about the mortal world. It was a mess. I couldn't make sense of it. He grabbed my arm, his eyes gleaming with a sneaky light. Look, kid, this girl's background isn't simple. That aura she just had, that was intense. I nodded, still feeling the chill. For a split second, she had looked like a goddess descending from the 9 heavens. Her gaze was filled with the intent to kill, like the flash of swords on a battlefield. You're right. You've seen a lot in your time, old man. Ever seen one of these? I reached into my robe and pulled out a blackened metal plate. Old Kai took it, weighing it in his hand. It's freezing cold and heavy. I can't even tell what material this is. So you haven't seen it? Never, he said, shaking his head. Looks like some kind of command token. Kid, I'm telling you, this girl is trouble. Don't go bringing a disaster down on our heads. I snatched the token back and tucked it away. We'll see. I couldn't just leave her to die. Old Kai waved me off. Don't say I didn't warn you. Good deeds never go unpunished. Anyway, is the fish ready yet? The woman didn't wake up again until 3 days later. This time, the terrifying intensity in her eyes was gone. Instead, she looked lost. Where is this? She asked, her voice soft as she looked at us. Hey, she's different, Old Kai whispered, nudging me. I ignored him and gave her a small smile. You're awake. You've been asleep for 3 days. 3 days? She frowned, trying to remember something, but she immediately winced and pressed her fingers to her temples. The pain seemed unbearable. After a moment, she looked at us again. One more question. Who are you? And who am I? Old Kai and I froze. We shared a look of pure shock. He leaned over, staring into her eyes. Girl, you don't remember anything? She knit her brows, struggling to find a single memory, but eventually, she just shook her head. I can't remember. Tell me. A single word popped into my head. Amnesia. Old Kai stroked his chin, studying her for a long time. Girl, he asked tentatively, you don't even remember your name or how you got here? My name. She thought hard again, but the result was the same. She shook her head. Old Kai turned around, pacing back and forth. I could see the gears turning in his head. Suddenly, a greasy, mischievous smile spread across his face. He turned back to her, his expression now one of deep concern. Granddaughter-in-law, he said, I think hitting your head in the river really did a number on you. Granddaughter-in-law. She blinked, pointing at herself. Me? Old Kai patted his head as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Of course. He pointed straight at me. This is my grandson, Jiang Fan. You're his wife. Don't you remember? My mouth fell open. I stared at him, completely dumbfounded. But the old man stayed perfectly serious. It's okay, granddaughter-in-law. Don't worry. We'll take it slow. I'll brew some medicine to help you recover. She stared blankly at him, then looked at me. Finally, she muttered. Was I blind back then? How did I end up marrying into your family? I almost choked. I wanted to tell her the truth, but the words got stuck in my throat. Later, I brought out a pot of delicious fish soup. I served her a bowl first. You haven't eaten in 3 days. Drink some soup to warm your stomach first. If you eat solid food now, you'll get indigestion. What is indigestion? She asked. It was clear she'd never heard the word. Oh, in your case, it just means your stomach has been empty so long it needs to wake up. Eating too fast will make you feel sick. She gave a small, oh, and sat at the table. She looked at the chair with curiosity, running her hands along the armrests. I didn't say anything. I had built this furniture myself, styled after the pieces from my old world. They didn't have chairs like this here. She had just finished washing up and was wearing a set of my clothes made of coarse hemp. She was tall, so they actually fit her reasonably well, though she had been a bit annoyed that I didn't have any proper women's clothes, or undergarments, for her. The milky white fish soup was topped with chopped cilantro and green onions. The aroma was incredible. She took a small sip with a spoon, and her eyes lit up. She ditched the spoon, picked up the bowl, and drained it in 3 gulps. She licked her lips, looking at me. This soup is amazing. Why does it feel like I've never tasted anything this good? I didn't know how to answer that. Old Kai, however, was happy to keep the lie going. Our family makes a living by fishing. We drink this every day. You just forgot because of the amnesia. She didn't push the issue. She looked at me and said, I looked in the mirror while I was bathing. I realize now that I probably wasn't the blind one. You were. And you, she added, looking at Old Kai. You're blind too. Old Kai just laughed it off, enjoying his food. He cracked open a small jar of wine, poured himself a bowl, and took a sip. Ah, fragrant. Grandson, I'll say one thing. This wine of yours is the best in the world. I sighed. I couldn't even complain about him demoting me to his grandson anymore. I just had to take the loss. The woman's nose twitched as she smelled the wine. She picked up a bowl. I want some too. Old Kai looked at her. Granddaughter-in-law, your body is still weak. You shouldn't drink. She didn't say a word. She just pushed her bowl toward him. Her gaze was so firm that Old Kai looked at me, sighed, and poured her half a bowl. You didn't used to be like this, he grumbled. It's like you're a different person. She lifted the bowl, sniffed it, and then downed it in one go. A rosy flush immediately crept onto her pale cheeks. Good wine. Her eyes sparkled. She grabbed the jar herself, filled a full bowl, and knocked it back. Then she did it again. Old Kai and I just stared at her. After 3 bowls, she let out a satisfied breath. Marrying into this family isn't so bad. Good food, good wine. Tell me, what was I like before? Old Kai blinked, then gave a sneaky laugh. Before you fell in the water? Oh, you were a great talker. You handled everything, inside the house and out. You kept things running perfectly. I kept my head down and focused on my food. The old man was lying through his teeth again. Heat up the fish soup. Grandpa should be back soon. The woman said a few days later as she hung up the laundry she had just washed. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. I just gave a bitter smile. Over the last few days, she seemed to have fully accepted her identity as my wife, by Xiaotsui. According to the story Old Kai spun, she was a child bride who had married me when I was 9 years old because my parents had passed away and I was overwhelmed with grief. She really believed she was the one who had raised me and taken care of the household all these years. Marrying a wife just to change my luck. That old fraud, Old Kai, really had some nerve to make up a story like that. He took advantage of her memory loss to invent an entire history for us, and in the process, he promoted himself from a wandering swindler to a respected grandfather figure. I was speechless. Part of me wanted to tell her the truth, but every time I opened my mouth, I stopped myself. I didn't know why. Maybe I just liked the company. Don't just stand there dazed, the woman said, snapping me out of my thoughts. She glared at me with those sharp, phoenix-like eyes. The fish soup is heated. Go chop some firewood. And don't forget to change your clothes later so I can mend them for you. Right. Got it, I muttered. I patted the head of the gray dog sitting beside me and stood up lazily. I looked around at the clean cottage, the tidy yard, and then at this woman in her coarse cloth robes, busying herself with chores. My wife. Honestly, it didn't feel so bad. I hadn't even finished chopping a few logs when a low rumble of hooves echoed from the distance. My dog suddenly started barking like crazy. Moments later, a squad of black-armored cavalry appeared outside the fence. They rode massive black horses and wore intimidating iron masks. These weren't local guards. These were battle-hardened elite soldiers. Who lives here? The leader shouted, pulling his horse to a halt. My dog bared its teeth and growled, showing no fear at all. Xiao Hui, shut up. I hissed at the dog. I dropped my axe and walked to the gate, looking at them through the fence. Officers, I live here. Is there something I can help you with? The leader looked me up and down. Kid, who else is in the house? I gave him a submissive smile. Just me and my old man, sir. And her. I pointed toward the woman standing by the drying rack. The leader glanced at her and frowned. I assumed it was because of the large red birthmark covering half her face. The old man is out gathering herbs, I added quickly. It's just us right now. Search the place, the leader ordered. 2 soldiers hopped off their horses and pushed past me into the yard. They walked right past by Xiaotsui without a second glance and stormed into the house. The leader turned back to me. What's wrong with your wife's face? Oh, just a birthmark, sir. If it wasn't for that, she wouldn't have married a poor guy like me. He looked away, clearly disgusted. Have you seen any strangers lately? No. As you can see, we're out in the middle of nowhere. We barely see a hunter once a year. The leader asked a few more questions before the 2 soldiers came back out. They shook their heads. No one else inside. The squad didn't waste another second. They mounted up and rode off as fast as they had arrived. I watched them go, wondering what they were looking for. Probably didn't involve me, so I didn't care. Xiaotsui, I called out. That name. Old Kai really picked a grounded name for her. I'm heading into the city tomorrow morning. Help me pack those furs so I can trade them for cloth and salt. She nodded, took a few steps, then paused. Where are the furs? I don't remember. The next morning, I set off. I had built a small boat over the last few days, and I was now rowing it down the river toward the provincial capital, about 60 miles away. The scenery was beautiful. I stopped rowing, leaned back, and crossed my legs, letting the current take me. Nice poem, a voice suddenly said. I nearly flipped the boat over in shock. Who's there? I was in the middle of a wide, empty river. My heart hammered against my ribs. Was it a water ghost? I looked around, but there was nobody. Cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I started bowing to the empty air. Lord River God, Lady Water Ghost, I'm just passing through. If I offended you, I'll bring wine and incense next time. Please don't scare me. Young man, I am neither a god nor a ghost. Your courage is a bit lacking. The voice came from behind me this time. I scrambled up and spun around. A massive face was staring right at me. It was round like a pancake, topped with a wooden hairpin and a long, flowing beard. He looked kind, but I wasn't convinced. I looked down and my hair stood on end. There was no boat under him. The old Taoist was standing directly on the surface of the water. Holy crap, not a ghost. I scrambled to the other end of the boat, trembling. The old man blinked, looked at his feet, and chuckled. With a flick of his horsetail whisk, he stepped onto my boat. He was huge. His shadow completely blocked out the sun. I saw the shadow and relaxed slightly. Ghosts don't have shadows. As I tried to stand up, I saw a single reed floating past the boat. Had this fat old man really been standing on a piece of grass? Old man, how did you get up here? He laughed and pointed at the reed. You saw it yourself, didn't you? Are you an immortal? Or a monster? I grabbed my oar like a weapon. He sat down at the bow, tucking his blue robes. That poem you were reciting was excellent. But your courage, well, I am just a wandering Taoist. My name is Tianji Z. Tianji Z? I looked at his round face and thought of a frog. Tianji, more like field chicken. The old man's face darkened. He could clearly tell what I was thinking. Oh, Taoist Tianji Z, I said, trying to be polite. Have you eaten yet? Not yet. He looked confused by the sudden change in topic. That's good, I said. I haven't eaten either. He stared at me, speechless. I could almost hear him thinking, what does your hunger have to do with me? Well, I don't have food, I continued. But do you want a drink? I pulled a small wine gourd from my waist and handed it over. I am a man of the cloth, I don't. He stopped mid-sentence. His nose twitched. Before I knew it, the gourd was in his hand. He took a sniff, and his eyes lit up. He tilted his head back and took 2 massive gulps. Good wine. His face turned bright red. I've never tasted anything so strong. Where did you get this? His red face looked like a giant, overcooked bun. I forced a smile. I made it myself. You have talent, young man. I have a few tricks, I said, looking at the gourd. But save some for me. It was too late. He had drained half a liter of high-proof alcohol in seconds. He really was a field chicken, gulping things down like a toad. I knew this guy was dangerous, so I kept my complaints to myself. That poem from earlier, the old man said, feeling a bit guilty for drinking all my wine. It felt like only half a poem. Why not finish it? It's gone, I said, rolling my eyes. I turned the gourd upside down. Not a single drop came out, just like the wine. He chuckled and scratched his head. This wine is truly something. I've broken my precepts today. Tell you what, I can't drink your wine for nothing. How about I teach you some kung fu? No thanks, I said instantly. He froze. Do you not know who I am? I do. You told me. Field chicken, right? The old man's face went completely black. You really have to read it like that, don't you? The old man snapped, his face darkening. Since you know my title, you should know that in this world, when it comes to the sand array, if I claim to be second, no one dares to claim first. I stared at him, completely unimpressed. Is that it? Do you people here have any other way of bragging? Or is this the only script you've got? You brat. He sputtered, his chest heaving. Infinite longevity and fortune. You're going to be the death of me. Don't get worked up, Taoist master, I said, waving a hand dismissively. I was just talking. Don't let the anger get to you. It's bad for the health. Look, I've got another gourd right here. Consider it a gift to show my respect. Tianji huffed and grumbled, but his hand moved faster than his mouth. He snatched the wine and started drinking again. I have a few skills, he muttered between gulps. Learning them wouldn't hurt you. I shook my head like a rattle. Not interested. Not learning. The old man paused, genuinely puzzled now. Most people in this world would beg for a single pointer from him. Why are you such an odd brat? He began to study me closely. His expression shifted to one of shock. To his eyes, my inner energy seemed hidden behind a thick mist, impossible to read. Curious, he began to calculate my fate using his fingers, but the more he tried to peer into my destiny, the more the mist churned. It was like a storm was brewing in there, filled with lightning and thunder, blocking him from seeing my past or future. I didn't notice his internal crisis. I just leaned back against the bow of the boat, feeling lazy. When people have a little bit of martial arts skill, they always want to pick a fight, I said. If I don't know any, I won't get into trouble. Tianjizi looked at me as if hearing this philosophy for the first time. Interesting, he whispered. A bit of skill leads to trouble. Well said. That deserves another drink. I shrugged. If you want a drink, just drink. Why make up excuses? The old man looked like he wanted to beat me senseless, but he restrained himself. He looked me up and down. You're a strange one. You speak in poetry, you've got a sharp mind, and your temperament is unique. Master, I interrupted, fishing and brewing wine are what's actually interesting. Everything else is just noise. He stroked his beard. You're so young. How can you be so detached? A young man should be full of ambition and fire, not living like a hermit. Everyone has their own path, I replied. For me, a small boat and a gourd of strong wine are enough. Plain and simple is the real truth of life. The old man went silent, a look of deep reflection crossing his face. A small boat, a gourd of wine. Plain and simple is the truth. He nodded slowly. Your words actually align with the Taoist path of inaction. I didn't expect to meet a youth like you on this trip to the Northwest. He suddenly finished the wine in one go and laughed. Fine. I can't drink your wine for nothing. I see your spirit is full. Do you know any breath-refining techniques? I learned a bit from an old man back home. I lied. Just some exercises to stay healthy. That will do. He stood up and swung his horsetail whisk. Suddenly, the world went silent. It was as if time itself had stopped. The river stopped flowing. A splash of water hung, suspended in midair. Even a crane nearby was frozen in the middle of taking flight. I had never seen anything like it. I was frozen in shock. A mysterious white light rose from the river's surface, like a rainbow surging into my small wine gourd. With a flick of his finger, the gourd floated back into my arms. Everything snapped back to normal. If you encounter danger in the future, open this gourd, he said. Lock onto your enemy with your intent, and it will save your life. I stared at the gourd, stunned. Seeing my reaction, the old man looked smug. Now we're even, wouldn't you say? I looked at the gourd, then looked at him, and curled my lip. How am I supposed to sell this now? The old man blinked, his smugness vanishing. You think a life-saving charm from me isn't worth a gourd of wine? Kid, don't think I'm just talking big. Watch this. He swung his whisk again. A massive wave erupted from the river, forming a literal pillar of water that crashed into a giant rock in the middle of the stream. With a deafening boom, the rock, which was at least 30 feet tall, shattered into dust. Holy, my jaw hit the floor. You can actually do that? The old man smiled proudly. Now do you believe me? I stared at the spot where the rock used to be for a long time. Then, I slowly picked up another gourd of wine and held it out to him. You drank 2 of my gourds. The old man's whisk dropped onto the deck with a clatter. He pointed at me, speechless. After a moment, he snorted, tossed the empty gourd back to me, and growled. Are you satisfied now, brat? I grinned. Satisfied, satisfied. I knew you were a man of your word, master. You're not the type to take a man's wine for free. He rolled his eyes. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. I'm leaving before I lose my mind. He stood up to go. Wait. I called out. He looked back, suspicious. What? Do you have more wine to give me? I rubbed the back of my head, looking embarrassed. After a long pause, I pulled out a third gourd. You really do have more? You're a crafty little. No, it's not that, I said quickly. It's just, you're still on my boat. You haven't paid the fare yet. The old man looked like he was about to have a heart attack. I watched him carefully. I mean, you're a man of rules. You wouldn't just ride for free, right? He stared at me as if I were a demon. He realized he had stepped onto a thief's boat the moment he met me. You little bastard, he hissed. Just remember to finish that poem someday. His voice lingered in the air, but his body vanished. He was gone. I sat there clutching my 3 gourds, a stupid grin on my face. He might have called me a little bastard, but this trip was definitely worth it. As for my reputation in his eyes, who cares about reputation when you've got magical gourds? 50 miles west of Heatsong City, there was a place called Linjiang Pavilion. It was built right on the riverbank, its stone base alone standing nearly 100 feet high. There were 9 towers in total, and for miles around, no other buildings dared to stand near them. It was the most famous tavern on the entire 8,000-mile Songlan River. On the 8th floor, a beautiful woman in silk robes leaned against a window. She looked bored and elegant, her eyes drifting over the river as if she were waiting for someone. "Miss, stop looking," her maid, Xiaohe, teased. "So he's a few days late. Everyone has things to do. You look like you're pining away." The woman sighed. "It's not just a few days. It's been 10. That heartless man." Xiaohe laughed as she set down a tray of cakes. "People would think you're waiting for a lover. Come on, eat something. You skipped breakfast." The woman didn't move. "Xiaohe, do you think something happened to him?" The maid thought for a second. "Hard to say. I heard there's a gang of bandits nearby. I hope our little wolf didn't run into them." The woman's face paled. "That's right. I forgot. Don't those bandits target young women?" "They are pretty brutal," Xiaohe agreed. "For some reason, they're killing every strange young woman in her 20s they find. It's terrifying. But don't worry, little wolf isn't a girl. He should be fine." The woman rubbed her temples. "Right. But why isn't he here yet?" "I don't know. He probably just got delayed. He'll be here today or tomorrow. Now eat, you're getting thin." The woman reluctantly picked up a piece of cake, but put it back down. "How are the guests today?" "Business is great. The first 7 floors are packed. Only the 9th floor is empty." The woman nodded. "Good. Keep the 9th floor closed. Just like he instructed." I know, the maid teased. "Everything little wolf says is right, isn't it?" The woman poked the maid's forehead with a slender finger. "You're getting bolder, teasing me like this." She picked up a cup of wine and sighed, her eyes returning to the horizon. I knew exactly what I was doing when I created the little wolf persona. In just 6 months, my strategies had transformed Linjiang Pavilion. We were now ranked 9th in the entire world, just 1 step away from joining the elite 8 great houses. Xiaohe, my pink-clad maid friend, loved to brag about it. She'd tell anyone who listened that our success was built on my 4 dishes, 1 soup, and a pot of wine concept. Even the owner, Sister Pei, couldn't help but marvel at how a gentleman like me knew so much about the kitchen. But I wasn't just a cook. I was the architect of their entire business model. Little Wolf said we're close to the top 8, Xiaohe chirped, her eyes bright with excitement. With his guidance, we might make the cut by the end of the year. Sister Pei looked less certain. She toyed with her wine cup, her face clouded with worry. The 8 great houses are legendary. Each one has something extraordinary. I'm still nervous. What's there to fear? Xiaohe countered. We have the famous fishing wolf of the Kanglan River. Sister Pei finally smiled, and it was like 100 flowers blooming at once. You know, the world's #1 restaurant, Taibai Residence, also has a fishing wolf from the Long River. I listened as they discussed my competition. Taibai Residence was a titan. Years ago, they were just another restaurant until a mysterious fisherman arrived on a small boat. He tasted 11 of their dishes, hated them all, and gave them a single poem and a single banquet menu in exchange for changing their name to Taibai Residence. That one poem and those 81 dishes made them world famous. But they don't have our wine, Xiaohe argued. Our burning blade is the best in existence. We're just one poem away from beating them. Sister Pei laughed at the girl's ambition. She knew that a poem of that caliber, one that captured the very soul of wine, was a once-in-a-century miracle. Then Xiaohe paused, her eyes widening as a thought struck her. Wait, the dishes and the poems at Taibai came from a fisherman. Our little wolf is a fisherman. Could they be the same person? Sister Pei went quiet. She gave a meaningful smile. The world isn't big enough for 2 people like that. As for our little wolf, who knows? Suddenly, Xiaohe jumped up and pointed out the window toward the river. A boat. Look, it's a small boat. Sister Pei rushed to the window, her heart racing. Far out on the water, a lone skiff was drifting toward the shore. I was lying back, my feet propped up, enjoying the breeze. It's him, Sister Pei cried out, her relief palpable. He's finally here. I'm going down to meet him. Xiaohe didn't even wait. She hiked up her skirts and sprinted down the stairs, nearly knocking over 2 waiters. The customers were stunned. Xiaohe was the second manager of the pavilion, usually sharp and composed, yet here she was running like a child. She ran into the head manager, a steady woman in green named Sister Qing. Xiaohe, where is your decorum? Little Wolf is here. Xiaohe shouted back without stopping. Sister Qing froze for a split second. Then, she grabbed her own skirts and started running just as fast. Where? Wait for me. The diners watched in total confusion. They knew Xiaohe was energetic, but Sister Qing was the pillar of the establishment. What kind of person could make both managers lose their cool? My boat bumped against the shore. Before I could even stand up, I heard them. Little Wolf, get up here quickly. I looked up and grinned at the 2 familiar faces. Sister Qing, Sister He. Why did you take so long? Xiaohe grumbled, grabbing my wrist and pulling me toward the pavilion. The mistress was worried sick. Easy, Sister Qing scolded. He hasn't even found his footing yet. Xiaohe stopped and stared at my waist. I had 3 gourds tied to my belt. Little Wolf, what's with the gourds? Are you trying to be a cartoon character? I patted the gourds and laughed. I've got some good stuff in here. Her eyes lit up. Is it wine? Let me see. I swatted her hand away gently. Don't touch. If you open these now, the contents will spoil. We climbed the stairs, ignoring the whispering crowds. I saw an old accountant at his desk. He was the only one who didn't look surprised. He just smiled and went back to his ledgers. On the top floor, Sister Pei was waiting by the stairs. The moment she saw me, the tension left her shoulders. She grabbed my hand, her voice soft. You're finally here. Why did it take so long? Just some small things at home, I said, sitting down at the table and making myself comfortable. Nothing to worry about. I was worried about the roads, she admitted. The area hasn't been safe lately. I took a sip of the tea Xiaohe poured for me. What's going on? Bandits, Xiaohe blurted out. They're roaming the riverbanks, killing any young woman they don't recognize. Over 100 people are dead already. It's horrific. I paused, the teacup halfway to my lips. I lived deep in the mountains and rarely got news. Do they know who's doing it? Some say it's Old Man Turtle from Jiangxin Island, Xiaohe said. He used to stick to the water, but now he's hunting foreign women on land for some reason. My mind flashed to my wife, back at the cabin. If these bandits were looking for strangers, she was in danger. Sister Pei sensed my mood and changed the subject. Let's not talk about blood and death. You must be hungry. I'll have the kitchen bring up the food I've been keeping warm. Sister Qing leaned in then, her eyes focused on business. Little Wolf, the pavilion is booming. Our burning blade, wine is in such high demand that people are traveling thousands of miles for a single jar. We need to brew more. A lot more. They both looked at me with expectation. I knew they wanted to strike while the iron was hot. We can increase production, I said with a smile. But only by 500 pounds a month. No more. Xiaohe scratched her head. Why? We could sell 5,000 pounds and still run out. Why only 500? Because things are more valuable when they're rare, I explained. The harder it is to get, the more people crave it. That's how a reputation spreads across the world. But we're leaving so much money on the table. Xiaohe groaned. I looked her in the eye. Do you want a pile of silver? Or do you want to be one of the 8 great houses? The 8 great houses, obviously, she muttered. We have enough silver. Exactly, I said. And this is how we get there. Just do as I say. I told them, my voice firm but calm. Remember, it's the thing people can't have that they want the most. Think about it. If we have a world-class wine, but the supply is strictly limited, what happens? There are tens of thousands of people out there, but only a few hundred can get a taste. That's how you build a legend. Sister Qing's eyes cleared as the realization hit her. I see now. The Spring Breeze Pavilion will become the talk of every wine lover in the land. The less there is, the faster the rumors spread. Exactly, I said, nodding. And because it's rare, it becomes expensive. We're already making a fortune, but in the open market, the price of a single jar will skyrocket. People won't even drink it themselves. They'll use it as a precious gift for high-ranking officials and nobles. That's how Burning Blade attracts the elite. That's how we reach the 8 great houses. I looked at Sister Ching with approval. She was sharp. She caught on fast. Sister Pei, dressed in her fine silks, looked at me with a gaze full of warmth and admiration. Everything will be done according to your wishes. From now on, no one is allowed to change our business strategy without your direct approval. Even Xiao He finally understood. She looked at me like I was some kind of wizard. Little wolf, how does your brain work? Compared to you, I feel like a block of wood. Sister Pei laughed, patting the girl's shoulder. Don't compare yourself to him, little girl. Compared to him, we're all blocks of wood. Sister Ching reached into her robe and pulled out a small ledger. By the way, I've already deposited last month's profits into the Four Seas Bank for you. Here are the accounts. I waved it away with a smile. No need. Money is just a tool. I didn't get into this for the silver anyway. That won't do, Sister Pei insisted. The pavilion was failing. I was about to lose my family's legacy until you showed up and saved us. Now we're drowning in gold. I won't be ungrateful. Please, take it, or I won't be able to sleep at night. I sighed. Fine, keep it in the bank for now. But I do have these furs I brought. I need you to help me sell them. Xiao He looked confused. Little wolf, you have so much money in the bank. Why are you working so hard to sell a few cheap pelts? Because these, I said, tapping the bundle, are what the old man and I caught with our own hands. It's not much, but spending money you actually earned feels better. Sister Pei's eyes softened with respect. You don't want to lose your sense of self. I understand. I'll buy the furs from you personally. I'll have the accountant check the quality and give you a fair price. Make sure it's the market price, I cautioned. Not a penny more. Also, I have a list of supplies I need to buy. We're family, Sister Pei said. Don't talk about trouble. Old Ma is heading to the county seat tomorrow for supplies anyway. He can bring your things back. That's perfect. It saves me the trip. Just don't forget. Xiao He cut me off, grinning. I know. Give Old Ma a tip of 10 coins and 9 pennies. We were all laughing when a waiter suddenly burst into the room, looking breathless. Mistress, managers, someone wants to climb to the 9th floor. The laughter stopped instantly. The 9th floor was reserved for the most elite guests. Who is it? Sister Ching asked. An old man. The waiter panted. He looks extraordinary. He only brought one servant, a hunchbacked old woman. When I asked for his identity, he just said he was a dying old man who wanted to see the view and have a drink. Sister Pei frowned. He didn't give a name? Was there anything strange about him? The waiter was observant. They're waiting in the lobby. While they waited, the old woman opened a bundle and set out a brush and an inkstone. The old man started drawing immediately. A brush and an inkstone? Sister Pei murmured, thinking hard. What did they look like? The brush handle was half green and half yellow, the waiter recalled. The inkstone was white as jade. Sister Pei stood up abruptly, her face pale. Are you sure? I check everyone who asks for the 9th floor, mistress. I didn't see it wrong. Sister Pei's eyes lit up. She whispered to herself, green and yellow brush, black and white inkstone. The spring and autumn brush. The black and white stone. It's him. Sister Ching gasped. Zhang Zaifu. Xiao He go, Sister Pei commanded. Invite him to the 9th floor immediately. I need to change my clothes and greet him. I was lost. Who is this Zhang Zaifu? You live in the mountains, so you wouldn't know, Sister Pei explained quickly. His real name is Zhang Jiling. He's a legend, a remnant of the great Zhou dynasty. He holds the seals of 5 different kingdoms. Every court in the land respects him. I scratched my head. Wait, didn't the great Zhou collapse 100 years ago? Why is he still working for a dead empire? He spent the first half of his life serving the royal family, she said. The second half, he used his influence across the 5 kingdoms to try and end the wars and restore the great Zhou. He's over 90 years old now. A month ago, he gave up his seals and walked away from politics. I never thought he'd come here. Sister Ching added, he's a world-renowned scholar. If he leaves even a few words of calligraphy here, our pavilion's name will shake the world. I was impressed. This old man sounded like a heavy hitter. He's stopped more wars than anyone can count, Sister Pei said, her voice full of awe. He's a man of noble character. Everyone looks up to him. Little wolf, don't you want to meet him? I shook my head. I'm just a fisherman. Why would a giant like that want to see me? Besides, I don't care about world politics. Sister Pei smiled. I know you like your quiet life, but a man like this is worth meeting once in a lifetime. He's retired now. He's just a traveler. Come with me. I thought about it. I was in this world now. I might as well see what the famous people were like. All right, I'll go as your assistant and just watch from the sidelines. We headed up. On the 9th floor, an old man stood by the window, looking out at the river. He had long white hair and a peaceful gaze. Even in simple clothes, he had an aura that commanded the room. On the table sat his brush, his inkstone, and a scroll. In the corner, a hunchbacked servant leaned against the railing with her eyes closed. The Spring Breeze Pavilion is truly remarkable, the old man said without turning. The view alone is worth the trip. You honor us with your presence, sir, Sister Pei said, bowing deeply. I am Pei Yun. Please forgive our late welcome. The old man turned slowly. His eyes were calm, like a deep lake. I stood behind Sister Pei, watching him. He really didn't look like an ordinary person. This pavilion rose to fame a year ago with 4 dishes, 1 soup, and a jar of wine. The old man smiled. I've wanted to visit for a long time. I heard this place was founded by the great Zhou official, Master Pei. Is that true? He was my great-grandfather, Sister Pei replied. The old man nodded. Master Pei was known for his elegance and talent. Seeing his descendant today, I can see that the family grace hasn't faded. You flatter me, sir, Sister Pei said softly. My ancestor left the court in disappointment and retired here to the riverside to live like a wild crane. But he had unfinished business. He looked troubled. The old man nodded slowly. The elder put his whole heart into serving the great Zhou. It's both admirable and tragic. But the world's affairs move like a great tide. Human strength can rarely change what fate intends. You understand my ancestor well, sir, Sister Pei said respectfully. The old man laughed. Do you know who I am then, young lady? Sister Pei bowed her head. A pen that writes the history of the ages, a mind that judges the truth of the world. Based on what the waiter said, you could only be the former prime minister. The old man burst into a loud, hearty laugh. No need for titles anymore. Just call me old gentleman. Like your ancestor, I am now nothing more than a wild crane drifting among the clouds. I came here today for one thing, your famous 4 dishes, 1 soup, and that jar of wine. Then I shall call you old gentleman, Sister Pei said. Please wait a moment while I prepare everything personally. She suddenly turned to me. Zhang Fan, would you mind keeping the old gentleman company for a bit while I make the arrangements? I froze. I thought I was just here to be a background character. But Sister Pei gave me a soft smile and turned back to the old man. To be honest, sir, this pavilion owes its success to this young man. He created the dishes, and he is the one who invented the secret method for brewing our Burning Blade wine. Since he is here, it's only right he hosts you. The old man looked at me, his eyes full of curiosity. This young lad has such talent. Very well. Miss Pei, go about your business. Once Sister Pei left, the old man gestured toward me. Young man, would you care to chat with an old man for a while? I scratched my head and grinned. I walked right up to the table. Sure, let's sit and talk. The old man blinked in surprise. I didn't wait for a formal invitation. I just pulled out a chair for him and then grabbed one for myself. Standing up to talk is tiring, I said, plopping down. I always say, if you can lie down, don't sit. If you can sit, don't stand. The old man laughed at my lack of manners. You're an interesting one. Was Miss Pei telling the truth? Did you really create all this? Yeah, I said honestly. I wasn't one for fake modesty. Just some small tricks I tinkered with when I had nothing better to do. These aren't small tricks, the old man said meaningfully. From the moment I stepped into this pavilion, everything felt fresh. The management, the service, it's unlike any other restaurant. I was curious who was behind it. I didn't expect a boy. I didn't tell him that this was just how things worked back in my old world. Instead, I shrugged. You flatter me. I'm just a fisherman from the river. I gave a few ideas, but Sister Pei does all the hard work. I don't think so, he replied. I've heard of this place. For 10 years, it struggled. Then, in just 1 year, it rose to challenge the 8 great houses. I thought a hidden sage was helping them. I never guessed it was a young fisherman. Tell me, Where do these ideas come from? I don't have big ambitions, I told him. I just like to eat and drink. If you spend enough time on it, you find ways to make it better. For common people like us, being full and happy is the greatest blessing. The old man went silent. He stared at me for a long time. I started to wonder if I'd said something wrong. Old gentleman? He snapped out of it and sighed. Your words, they give me much to think about. The world rises and falls, and the common people always suffer. You're right. To be fed, to be safe, to be happy, that is enough for them. You care about the world, sir. I admire that, I said. I only regret that the world is in chaos, he said, his voice heavy. Wars everywhere. People dying. I don't know when they will finally eat their fill as you described. He looked at me, seeing my blank expression, and laughed at himself. Listen to me. I'm old and I still can't let go. Why am I telling a boy these things? Let's just eat. Sister Pei returned then, personally carrying the trays of food and wine. I saw the old man look depressed, so I tried to brighten the mood. When I'm stressed, a jar of wine usually fixes it. Why don't you try this Burning Blade? Burning Blade, the old man mused. An interesting name. Did the boy pick it? Sister Pei pulled the wine jar from the warm water and poured a cup. He did. He says it's made with a secret method. It's fragrant, spicy, and sharp, like fire entering the mouth and a blade scraping the throat. The old man's eyes lit up. I love a good drink. I've heard people in the Northwest praising this wine for months. I've been dying to try it. He looked at Sister Pei. Please sit. There's no need for formalities with me. Sister Pei sat down gracefully. Then I shall be bold. This wine is strong, sir. You have to drink it the right way. Jiang Fan, explain it to him. Take a big gulp, I instructed. Let it swirl in your mouth for a second, then swallow. Hold your breath for a moment after. That's where the flavor is. I'll join you. I filled a cup for myself and Sister Pei. We raised them together. The old man downed his in one go. His face turned bright red instantly. A moment later, he let out a long, satisfied breath. Good. Incredible wine, he shouted. It really is like fire and steel, yet the aftertaste is sweet and crisp. It lives up to the name. This trip was worth it just for this. Try the food too, Sister Pei said. The old man picked up his chopsticks and tried the fish. His eyes widened. The flavor is so intense. Even in the Imperial Palace, I've never tasted anything like this. This is magnificent. If it's good, eat more, I said, ladling him a bowl of soup. Have some soup too. It'll help your stomach after the strong wine. The old man stopped talking and started eating with real gusto. After 3 rounds of wine and finishing the dishes, he leaned back with a satisfied sigh. With food and wine like this, it's no wonder this place rose so fast. Only the Taibai residents could possibly compare. Young man, are you the god of food reborn? Just as we were laughing, the hunchbacked servant in the corner suddenly bolted upright. Watch out, he roared. I looked toward the river. On a fast-moving boat in the distance, several figures appeared. A split second later, a dozen streaks of dark light shot toward us through the air. They were ice iron arrows, glowing with a faint blue poison. The hunchbacked servant didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, his hand reaching out like a dragon's claw. A gust of wind swirled around his fingers, and he caught the entire volley of poisoned arrows mid-air with his bare hand. Bold fools, the old man's servant growled. He looked like a literal lion. He flicked his wrist, throwing the arrows back toward the boat. Even though it was nearly a mile away, the boat was instantly thrown into chaos as the arrows hit home. The servant prepared to jump off the balcony to finish them, but the old man casually waved him off. Forget it. Just small fries testing the waters. Let them go. Don't let them ruin the wine. The servant didn't say another word. He simply walked back to his corner, closed his eyes, and returned to his frail, elderly appearance. I watched as the speedboat fled into the distance, leaving only a fading wake on the river. The old man and his servant acted as if nothing had happened, returning to their calm, composed selves. I, however, was staring at them with my mouth hanging open. Those were a dozen ice iron arrows. They had been caught mid-air by a bare hand and thrown back with enough force to kill multiple men from over a mile away. This unassuming, hunchbacked old servant was a monster. The realization sent a cold shiver down my spine. If he hadn't stepped in, we'd all be dead right now. I had seen the blue tint on those arrowheads. They were coated in a lethal poison. The old man didn't seem to care. He just kept drinking and chatting as if we hadn't just dodged an assassination attempt. I couldn't help but admire his nerves of steel. Since I loved a good drink and a bold personality, I started pouring more wine, and the two of us hit it off immediately. As the wine began to go to my head, the old man sighed contentedly. To have such wine and such a fascinating young man to talk to. I haven't been this happy in a very long time. I let my guard down, my true personality coming out. Old gentleman, you left your post at the Fuyun Pavilion and walked away from a half-finished game of chess. That shows you've let go of the past. Why carry any more bitterness? Why not find a quiet, elegant place to teach? You could pass on your wisdom to the next generation. The old man's chopsticks froze. Sister Pei shot me a warning look, telling me to stop talking nonsense. But the old man put his chopsticks down and looked at me thoughtfully. Teach the next generation, he repeated. To use my remaining years for that. Perhaps that is the last thing I can do for this world. The main thing is to be happy, I said, leaning back. It takes 10 years to grow a tree, but 100 years to cultivate a person. Think about it. Years from now, a group of ambitious young people, just like you once were, will be out there in the world, carrying your legacy forward. Besides, staying around young people keeps your heart young. You'll live longer. The old man stared at me. My face was flushed from the wine, and I was definitely feeling a bit floaty, but my words hit him hard. 10 years for a tree, 100 for a person. It was a profound truth I'd just tossed out casually, and it seemed to open a new window in his weary mind. For a moment, this legendary figure who had dominated the world for decades couldn't quite figure me out. Was I really just a fisherman in straw sandals? Sister Pei stayed silent, her eyes glowing with a strange light. She came from a scholarly family. She understood exactly how deep my words were. She began to wonder who her adopted brother really was and what kind of family could have raised such a boy. The old man grew quiet, lost in memory. I used to play chess at Fuyun Pavilion with an old friend, he said softly. He was a great priest, a man of incredible spirit. But the last time we met, he was exhausted. He looked at the unfinished board and told me, I won't play anymore. I can't. I'm going now, and I won't be back. He died right there with a smile on his face. I felt no grief, only a sense of completion. I've done my best for this land. Like that half-finished game, I decided to let it end there. I planned to wither away in the countryside, but today, this meal and this wine, you've changed my mind, young man. I felt a sudden burst of inspiration. Old gentleman, let me compose a piece of music for you, to mark the story of your life. The old man laughed, his spirit soaring. Haha, I, Zhang Jiling, have spent my life in the thick of it, and today I find a true kindred spirit in a boy. Fine, you compose the words, and I shall write them down personally. Sister Pei gasped. She scrambled to her feet, shouting for the servants. Quick, bring the finest rice paper, the biggest roll we have. Clear the tables. I slurred my words slightly, pointing at the table. The biggest scroll. Hurry. If you don't mind, sir, I will grind the ink for you, Sister Pei said, her voice trembling with excitement. If I was the famous fisherman of the Dragon River, and the great Zhang Jiling was writing the calligraphy, the reputation of our pavilion would be set in stone forever. The managers, Sister Qing and Xiao He, spread the paper across the joined tables. The old man pushed up his sleeves and laughed. Let's hear it, boy. If it's no good, I'm burning it right here. I slammed my hand on the table, swaying on my feet. Since we are at the Riverside Pavilion, the melody shall be The Immortal at the River. I stood up, drained my cup in one gulp, and let out a voice that sounded like it came from across the centuries. The turbulent Yangtze River flows east, its waves washing away all heroes. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. It became vast, desolate, and grand. The old man's eyes lit up. He grabbed his brush, soaked it in ink, and began to write with furious energy. Right and wrong, success and failure, all turned to nothing in an instant. The green mountains remain, through many a setting sun. The old man's body was trembling as I recited the words, but his hand remained as steady as a rock. Even the silent, hunchbacked servant stood up, his eyes wide. White-haired fishermen and woodcutters on the river isles, accustomed to watching the autumn moon and spring breeze. A flask of thick wine for a happy meeting. How many events of the past and present are all shared in a laugh and a conversation? When I finished, the old man stood frozen. The poem was eternal. It captured the endless flow of the river and the fleeting nature of heroes. It turned the rise and fall of dynasties into nothing more than talk over a bottle of wine. It was detached, free, and soul-stirring. How many events of the past and present are all shared in a laugh? The old man whispered. That is my life. That is the life of every hero in this world. The bitterness, the politics, the weight of the empire, it all seemed to evaporate. He threw his head back and laughed, a sound that shook the very walls of the pavilion. What a poem! What a fisherman! I have this one piece of writing, and my life is complete. He looked back at me, but I was already tapping on the table, humming a strange, haunting tune to the words. A few moments later, my head hit the table, and I fell into a deep, drunken sleep. When I finally woke up, my head felt like it was being split open by an axe. I groaned, realizing my tolerance for this burning blade. Wine was nowhere near where it needed to be. You're finally awake, a soft voice said. I looked up to see Xiaohe standing by the window with a cup of hot tea. Sister Xiaohe, what time is it? What time? You've been asleep for a day and a night. See if you dare drink that much again. She helped me sit up and handed me the tea. A day and a night? I looked out the window. It was pitch black. Is Zhang Jiling still here? He left long ago, she said, serving me. But he left something for you. You should wash up and eat first. You must be starving. I need a bath, I muttered. I've already prepared the hot water. Once you're done, come to the ladies' room for dinner. Where is Sister Pei? Xiaohe looked at me with stars in her eyes, her face full of pure adoration. She's incredibly busy. You did it. Your poem shocked Zhang Jiling, and now the whole city is in an uproar. Since yesterday, people have nearly broken down our doors just to get a glimpse of that poem. Sister Pei didn't waste any time. She arranged for Zhang Zifu's calligraphy of my poem to be professionally framed and hung right in the center of the pavilion. She even planned to build a massive decorative screen outside the main entrance, hiring master carvers to etch the words into wood so the whole world could admire them. Is all that really necessary? I asked, feeling a bit guilty. I was starting to feel like a serial plagiarist. Stealing from the great poets of my old world was becoming a habit, and seeing it cause such a massive stir made me feel a little awkward. Xiaohe chirped away like a happy sparrow. What do you mean, unnecessary? You have no idea. Zhang Zifu said this poem can stand side by side with the greatest works in history. Everyone in the city is asking about the mysterious fisherman who wrote it. The news snapped me out of my lingering hangover. Don't let them find out it was me, I said quickly. Tell Sister Pei I just want a quiet life. Seriously, just tell everyone Zhang Zifu wrote it himself. Xiaohe looked at me like I had grown a second head. Most people would kill for this kind of fame. Young master, why are you so strange? This is your chance to be famous across the land. I smiled. Pigs get slaughtered once they get fat, Xiaohe. When a man gets too famous, trouble follows. And I hate trouble more than anything. Please, just don't give me away. She scratched her head, mimicking my frustrated gestures. I don't get it, but don't worry. Sister Pei and Zhang Zifu haven't told anyone your real name. The signature on the poem just says the fisherman of the Azure River. No one knows it's you. Good. I sighed, relieved. I washed up and went to meet Sister Pei. The moment she saw me, her eyes lit up with pure joy. Did you sleep well, little brother? You really are my lucky charm. I can't believe I was fortunate enough to meet a talent like you. I felt my face heat up. Sister, you're overpraising me. I was drunk and talking nonsense. Please, stop teasing me. Teasing? She stepped closer, her gaze admiring. Since your poem appeared, it's been like a hurricane sweeping through the city. By tomorrow, it will be known across the world. If that's talking nonsense, I wish everyone talked like you. Because of you, our pavilion will definitely join the 8 great houses by the end of the year. I let out a helpless sigh. I knew the power of that poem, but I didn't expect this. Just promise me you won't reveal my identity. I just want to live in peace. Sister Pei's eyes softened. She knew I didn't care for fame or fortune, which only seemed to make her more intrigued by me. I understand. But that title, the Fisherman of the Azure River, is already becoming legendary. The pavilion is packed, and there's a line 3 miles long outside. Everyone wants to meet you. I'm not seeing anyone, I said, shaking my head vigorously. Tell them I left. Don't worry, she laughed. I told them you left with Zhang Zifu. Now sit down and eat. You haven't had a bite in a day and a night. I prepared your favorite sour soup noodles. My mouth watered instantly at the sight of the steaming bowl. You know me best, sister. A bowl of sour soup noodles after a night of drinking is better than being an immortal. I devoured the noodles, sweating and satisfied. I let out a loud burp and patted my stomach. Old Ma's skills are getting better than mine. Xiao He, who had just walked in, pouted at me. That wasn't Old Ma. He's so busy his feet haven't touched the ground all day. The mistress made those for you herself. I froze, looking at Sister Pei. You made this. I remembered how much you liked it, she said gently. I watched you teach Old Ma that day and picked up a few things. I hope it was edible. I gave her a big thumbs up. It was amazing. I didn't know you were such a good cook. It's nothing compared to you, she replied. They say a gentleman stays away from the kitchen, yet you love to tinker with food. Between your cooking and your poetry, you're truly one of a kind. I wonder what other secrets you're hiding. No secrets here, I lied smoothly. Cooking is just for the stomach. Poetry is just a hobby. To me, a good meal is much more practical than a poem. My attempt at being low-key only made her look at me with more mystery. She saw a wandering, casual youth, but she sensed something much deeper beneath the surface. You say you have no talent, she whispered, but people are already comparing you to the legendary fisherman of the Dragon River, the greatest poet of the age. Tell me, are you him? I laughed it off, dodging the question. Anyway, did Old Ma finish the shopping? Are my supplies ready? She saw I was changing the subject and sighed. Yes, everything is packed and ready for you. Good. I'll be heading back early tomorrow morning. Her brow furrowed. So soon? You usually stay for a few days. Why the rush? I couldn't exactly tell her I had a wife waiting for me or that we were running out of grain. Instead, I just insisted I had to go. She tried to persuade me to stay, but eventually gave in. Wait, she said, standing up to grab a yellow wooden box from a shelf. Zhang Zifu left something for you. I opened the box curiously. Inside sat a brush with a green and yellow tint and a snow-white inkstone carved in the shape of a wild goose. The spring and autumn brush. The black and white inkstone. I gasped. These were the famous symbols of the former prime minister. To scholars, they were priceless treasures. Why would he give these to me? He said that after receiving your poem, his life's wishes were fulfilled, Sister Pei said, her voice full of envy. He left these as a gift to repay the debt of the poem. I turned the items over in my hands, my eyes suddenly turning greedy. Sister, are these worth a lot of money? She looked speechless. I thought you didn't care about wealth. I'm actually very fond of money, I grinned. If I didn't have a use for these, I'd show you what a real miser looks like. She rolled her eyes, though even that looked elegant on her. Don't talk nonsense. The brush is made from simple bamboo and the inkstone from white stone. They aren't made of gold, but because of who owned them, they are treasures. If people knew you wanted to sell them for cash, they'd drown your little boat with their spit. Oh, I said, feeling a wave of disappointment. I thought they were made of rare jade or something. I played with the inkstone for a moment. Wait, it's pure white. Why is it called the black and white inkstone? And why the spring and autumn brush? Sister Pei sighed. Sometimes I think you know everything, and other times I think you know nothing at all. The brush is made from a special bamboo that turns half green and half yellow over time, representing the seasons of spring and autumn. And the Prime Minister used it to write his history of the world. The spring and autumn brush was more than just a tool. Sister Pei explained that it was carved from a unique bamboo that aged into 2 distinct colors, green and yellow, representing the shifting seasons. The Prime Minister had used it to write his history of the world. As for the black and white inkstone, it was carved from a piece of pure white stone found at the foot of the Kunlun Mountains. When ink was ground upon it, the contrast between the black ink and white stone was sharp and clear. People said it represented the Prime Minister's character, upright, honest, and able to distinguish right from wrong with perfect clarity. I looked at the items again. It wasn't that the materials themselves were priceless jewels. It was the legacy of the man who owned them that gave them value. I played with them for a moment before sliding the box back across the table towards Sister Pei. Sister Pei, it's not convenient for me to carry these around. Why don't you keep them here for me? She stared at me, stunned. Are you stupid? You're just going to leave something this precious with me? I shrugged. They're heavy, and I don't have a safe place to put them. Besides, I'm uneducated and lazy. I'm not going to spend my days writing poetry. If you meet some handsome scholar you like, feel free to give them away as a gift. She reached out and smacked me hard on the forehead. Stop talking nonsense. These are treasures from Lord Zhang. You don't just give them away. The old man sees something in you, Lin Yuan. This is a legacy. I'm almost afraid to even hold on to them. I don't care, I said, already looking toward the door. I've got a boat full of supplies to move. If you don't want them, just store them for me. My broken little shack isn't fit for literary treasures anyway. The old man really put me in a spot giving me these. What's the phrase? Throwing pearls before swine. Sister Pei rubbed her temples, speechless. She had never met a teenager like me. To anyone else, the spring and autumn brush and the black and white inkstone were the stuff of dreams. To me, they were just extra luggage. I don't even know what to say to you, she sighed. Then don't say anything. I grinned. Just get me another bowl of noodles. As I ate, Sister Pei leaned against the window in her usual elegant, lazy pose. Her managers, Xiao He and Sister Qing, watched me with mixed expressions. To them, I was a total mystery. I had written a poem so profound it seemed impossible for a 16-year-old to conceive. On one hand, I was a wild, carefree fisherman. On the other, I seemed like an old soul who had seen too much of the world. He's like an old man trapped in a boy's body, Xiao He whispered. Sister Qing nodded slowly. You can't write like that without decades of experience. But look at him. He's just a kid. Whoever he is, Sister Qing continued, his poem will put our pavilion in the 8 great houses. We need to start preparing. Sister Pei didn't answer. She just stared out at the flowing river, her eyes tracing my path. She was clearly wondering who I really was. By the time I got back to my mountain cabin, the sun was low. Old man, I'm back. Come help me with these bags. I yelled toward the shack. A scruffy, mixed-breed dog came sprinting out first. He wagged his tail so hard his whole body shook, rubbing his head against my legs. Hey, Gray Wolf. I laughed, scratching his ears. Still can't bark right, can you? The dog didn't go woof. He let out a strange woo sound that always made me shake my head. Then, a tall woman in coarse hemp clothes stepped out of the hut. You're back. Did you get everything? Oh yeah, I got it all, wife, I stuttered. Calling her wife still felt weird. Every time I said it, I remembered the first time I saw her, the cold, piercing gaze of a woman who looked like she could command armies. She definitely wasn't some random mountain girl. If she ever figured out I wasn't her real husband, I was dead. I blamed the old man for this mess. What are you staring at? She asked, her voice sharp and commanding. Move the supplies. Grandfather went up the mountain. It's just us. She might have lost her memory, but she still talked like a boss. I spent the next hour hauling rice, flour, oil, and new clothes into the shack. I got 2 sets of clothes for you, I noted, checking my list. She gave a short nod. Good. I want fish head pancakes for dinner. You're cooking. Later that night, I was squeezed into the small bed with the old man. Kid, he whispered, kicking me. When are you going to move in with her? Squeezing in here with me every night is getting old. Shut up, I hissed. If this turns into a disaster later, I'm using you as a human shield. The old man picked his nose, looking unimpressed. You're supposed to be a tough guy, aren't you? Scared of one woman. You even made up that lie about not being physically developed enough to share a bed. You're 16. If you wait until you're 18 like you told her, I'm stuck with you for 2 more years. You think I like this? I retorted. You're smelly. I'm building another room tomorrow. And you better hope she doesn't remember who she is. What happens then? The old man chuckled darkly. Then we run. But look at her, kid. Once those red marks on her face fade, she's going to be the most beautiful woman you've ever seen. I've lived 100 years and never seen a girl like that. You should be thanking me. If she tries to kill us, I can run faster than you anyway. Good luck. I hate you, I muttered. She's way older than me. This whole thing is a mess. What kind of childhood did you have to turn out this shameless? Were you kidnapped? Bullied? Go to sleep, he grumbled, turning over. And take care of that dog tomorrow. He chewed my shoes again.